Welcome to the Rebel Rise podcast, a place where badass women like you come to connect, learn, and grow. Here, we celebrate the relentless spirit of women who dare to dream and design their own destinies. This is your time for no bullshit, so no subject is off limits. This is a time for you to collect inspiration and create the vision for your life. Get ready to break free from societal expectations, take your power back, and step into your dream life. Your empowerment journey begins right here. Let's go. So today on the Rebel Rise podcast, we have a really great friend of mine who is a senior coach at mastermind.com. And she is also specializing because of her passion in marketing and mindset, but she also has quite the eye for adventure. And I am so excited to get into this because this is something that I preach so much on this podcast as well, is doing the uncomfortable, getting used to the unknown so that you can discover new and fun things. So I can't wait to get into this, but welcome, Ludmila.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. It's such a pleasure to be here with you in this podcast and sharing with your audience, because I share the same passion as you do for empowering women to follow their hearts, to follow their dreams, to believe in themselves, right? That is always a way for us to figure it out and find new things and find ourselves. So I'm very excited to be here.
Well, I am so excited to have you. And I really want to jump right into your story because your story is something that you shared with me and a group of coaches a few months ago. And it's just such a fun story. It's so well balanced. I think I'm talking about your life like, oh, there's great balance to your life, but really like just with the types of risks that you've taken, because there's so many women who sit and wait, right? And never quite jump and never quite jump. And you are so good at just taking the leap, making the jump. I feel like I'm speaking in metaphors here.
Lily.
Yeah, when we're talking about taking a jump. So I'm just going to have you get right into it. Can you kind of share your origin story with everybody who may not know you?
Absolutely. I would love that. And I love to share this part of my story because I truly, from the bottom of my heart, I believe that if I did what I did and I am where I am, everybody can do it. It's nothing special. It's just some traits and some thought process that you learn with your life that you can start applying and make it work. So I'm Brazilian, born to a beautiful family. I'm the oldest of three siblings. Love my life in there. My background is in marketing and business. So went to marketing business for university, and life took me into selling life insurance. So I was marketing manager for a Jaguar and Citroen cars in Brazil. And then I got recruited to work for Prudential in Brazil for life insurance. And I was like 19, 20. So with like fake glasses, Gucci bag, and little black dress to try to look older. But I did what I had to do. But it was hard because everybody there had already a clientele. So I decided to specialize. Prudential in Brazil was the only life insurance company that was specialized in sports. And I'm like, that's where it's at. So I specialized myself in life insurance for sports. But I created connections. I went to all their live events. All the Subaru rally drivers are my clients, like skydivers, hang gliders. So I made friends. And then the sales came after. But throughout that process, I went from selling life insurance to being a co-owner in a skydiving school. Because throughout the process, I met someone that down the road, we became engaged, and I was part owner. He was looking for a partner in the business. And I said, that was my first jump on that sense. I said, well, why get someone else if we are engaged? This is going to be our business. So, and I was doing really well. I was the youngest one in the country. selling life insurance and going to the conventions. And I quit that because of a dream and because of a belief that that was going to happen. And I said, don't look for anybody else. I can do it. So I jumped into this opportunity and I started running the business. So we went from 3 students a week to average 12 to 15 students a week, to airplanes, partnerships with Red Bull, and all the fun things, right? Doing company meetings, engagement. So it was a beautiful part of my life. But the part that I love the most is that every weekend, so I used to teach the classes also besides running the business. And every weekend we used to go to the airport 2 hours from the city. So nobody's going to land on a on a building or in a highway or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Good thing.
But that seeing that expression when they get on the plane and people are freaking out, and then suddenly they land and they touch the ground. That expression of, if I can do this, I can do anything in my life. I think for me was the most rewarding things. Not that you need to go skydiving for that, but it was such an amazing metaphor. They took the leap of faith and they decided to do it. They felt the fear and they went for it anyway. And when they landed, it was that incredible feeling. So that part for me, working with people, it was amazing. Plus beautiful things that I got to experience throughout that journey. But again, because I said yes, I left a job that I was very secure and everything was okay for a dream and a possibility, and we made it work. Down the road, after 4 years, relationship didn't go so well. I was in a position where I truly believe that everybody once in our lives should experience something like that. I love that person more than I love myself at that time. And I love myself, but I was in love, really in love with that person. So lesson learned. We broke up and I was in a crossroad. And that's the part of the story that I think is the part that I shared with you. That we gotta believe that the universe had our back. We forget that a lot of times. And now looking back at that part of my story, I had that certainty. So we broke up. I had my godparents in Canada. So I had 2 roads that I could take. Be the marketing director for an airplane company that was in the same airport where I used to have the skydiving school. So we'll go straight back into marketing, amazing company, like all over Brazil. Or have a chance to come to Canada for 6 months to learn English. My godparents were here, so I knew I had food and shelter, and I could have this experience. I used to speak German and Spanish. I didn't go to school for English. So down the road, those things that happen. Once I make the decision, I had the clear view. Okay, I want to go to Canada for 6 months. My godparents are there. I know I have a place to stay. Once I made the decision, and that's another key point for us in life, when you make the decision, the ball started rolling. It was wintertime in Brazil. I had a motorcycle, a Honda 400. So I was a skydiver riding a motorcycle, but I was good. It was good. It was very respectful of everybody, but I love my adventures, right? Everything in the world against me to sell that motorcycle in wintertime in Brazil when it's raining all the time. But I had that certainty inside of me, that belief that I was going to go to Canada. And I can't explain. So I went to grab my visa and I put the motorcycle on sale and I went to buy luggage. And my dad's like, why are you going to spend money in luggage? Like, you haven't sold your motorcycle. And the money for the motorcycle was the money for the airplane ticket. This is why. And I had to sell that day up to June 21st. Otherwise, it was going to be high season, and then the money for the motorcycle couldn't buy the airplane ticket. So that was the predicament. But I just knew. I can't explain. I just knew inside of me, I'm going, something's going to happen. And fair enough, June 20th, this kid came in the morning to look at the bike, and he said, okay, I kind of like it. And I said, okay, well, so when are you gonna make a decision? He's like, oh, by lunchtime, like 1 o'clock. So I called him by 1 o'clock, and he said, okay, I'll buy the motorcycle. And I'm like, just inside of me, I'm like, go. But I still had the steps, right? I told him, okay, how are you gonna pay? He's like, oh, I am going to pay cash. So I told him, meet me at this address and we will do the rest from there. Well, the address was the travel agency where I had my airplane ticket on hold, right? I had reserved the ticket, but not buy the ticket. So we got there, the guy was confused what I'm doing inside the travel agency. And I said, oh, I'm flying to Canada tomorrow. He's like, what? How about the paperwork? And I said, no, my father have all the signing rights. He's going to pass the motorcycle to you. He gave me the money. I went to the clerk and I said, hey, I want to check on the ticket that I have on hold for tomorrow, 1 o'clock. And she said, you're not going to have on hold anymore because by now is less than 24 hours. It drops. And I told her, look, it's going to be there. And it, sure enough, it was there.
Mm-hmm.
And she looked at me, she's
Wow.
like, oh, it's there. And I'm like, I knew it. I gave her the cash. I bought the ticket, went home, called my best friend, and I said, buddy, let's go for a beer. I'm leaving to Canada for 6 months. And my friend's like, you're what? And I'm like, I'll tell you later. So he picked me up at home. We went to our favorite rock and roll bar, like this wooden cabin. And from there came back home, slept a little bit, packed in the morning. My parents dropped me off, and I'm off to Canada. And all because I had the certainty. Everything was against me at that time for me not to come to Canada. The money, the weather, the visa, everything. But I trusted that it was going to happen, and it did. And so when I landed in Canada, was that whole new change again in my life. Like, but I was starting from zero because I didn't have the language. So I came from having a university degree, had my own business, to starting from zero. So I learned English and I fell in love for the challenge. This is something that I always talk about it too, is that people sometimes are so against change, and changes are hard. But if you make the conscious decision to choose to be curious, to choose to learn, so many amazing things can happen. So when I landed in Canada, I landed with the eyes of curiosity. It's a new life. I just broke up. It was a terrible broken up. I left the whole business behind and I just took the motorcycle. And I'm like, I'm out of here. I gotta go. So everything was new and it was beautiful. And I absolutely fell in love for this country. And I did what I had to do. Learn English, got a work permit, and kept on going, got a work as a marketing manager for a biotech company here in Vancouver, which was incredible. And the same, that job gave me a chance to do what I love, help others, but I also had a chance to go travel. So they were big shareholders in different biotech companies. So I was part of a group of auditors. So I was doing the marketing auditing for the companies. And I had a chance to fly in private jets. Like, who knew? Like, I'm like, okay, I came from Brazil to Canada, no English. Now I'm like, so I had that experience because I said yes to opportunities in life. So it was amazing. And then fast forward, met my husband, fell in love, and got married, got pregnant. Lucas came along, and I was like, This baby's going to be my schedule. 3 months, I am back at work. I couldn't do it. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. So when you learn the power of blueprints, my dad was high-end executive. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. As soon as I grabbed Lucas in my arms, I'm like, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't put my child in a daycare. And it's no right or wrong. And I fought that so much until I understood what was happening. And I'm like, okay, I will stay home. So we went from like driving a Mercedes, flying private jets, to living in a basement with my husband and driving a jet. But I did again in my life exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a mom at that stage. And I took the financial sacrifices because of that, because then we're just one income. Canada is not a cheap place. Vancouver is not a cheap place to live. But Vanessa, when I remember another part in my life when I was playing with Lucas, we were in this 2-bedroom apartment, and Lucas hit the ground and it was loud, and was a lady downstairs that had a million cats. And I'm like, you gotta be careful with the lady downstairs. Lucas was 6. He said, Mom, I don't want to live here anymore. And I sat on the ground with him and I said, why? He said, I want to walk to school like all my friends. The power of manifestation. Lucas said, I want to walk to school like all my friends. I want to live in a house with a backyard, and I want to buy a dog. That was November. I looked at him in the eye and I said, by February next year, we will be at this place that you asked for. That's all I said. But I used his manifestation and his vision. And I said, we're going to get this done. I put February because I knew it was like Christmas, New Year's coming up. Let's give me
Got to be a little realistic.
Let's give me some time. But sure enough, January I started looking, just 6 blocks radius from the school. And that was this one street that I wanted to live, because they had 7 boys in that street. And they were all going to the same school as Lucas, and some was Lucas's age, and the other ones were 2 years older. So I was praying and visualizing, like, I want to live on that street. How wonderful would it be to live on that street? And sure enough, that basement suite was a ground level suite, came up. And I'm like, I don't care. We're moving there. And my husband's like, we're doing what? And I'm like, we're moving there. That's going to be good for Lucas. And that's going to be good for us. And so we did. We made the move. And I did what I thought would be the right thing for Lucas. But for me, as a mom, it was good for my husband, because we had placed a backyard and a place to play and train and do things with Lucas. But I can look back. And even though we didn't have a lot of money at that time, I made breakfast pancakes for all the boys every Sunday morning for years. I had all the kids at our place. We were the smallest house on the street. But everybody, the boys were always at home, and I was there, and I always work, but not bringing the big money for the first 4 years. Like, I used to work a lot with big events. So what I did is I partnered up with a temp agency. So when was there a concert or a big event, they need a team lead to lead the team. I'm like, I'm here. So got me out of the house. I'm not stuck in the office, and I made some money, get my people fixed, and go back to the mom life. And when Lucas was 5, then everything really changed in 2014, when I came back and I say, okay, now it's time. And then I did Jeff Walker's training to refresh the online marketing. And from there, I'm here now. But those looking back now, when I did those things in my life, I wasn't thinking what I was doing. Like, you're kind of doing a survivor mode. But I have always been a believer that we can do it. And this is why I love to tell your audience and on my Instagram is like, go out there, do more of what makes you happy. Dare to dream. Like, remember who you are. Sometimes life happens, and I had times in my life when it was really complicated. My husband had depression for 2 years. And you have to figure it out. Keep the house happy for Lucas and for us and help my husband. But I never lost faith in a sense of belief that that was happening for a reason. That was going to be part of my life story that I can share down the road and inspire other people. And I kept on moving forward, but believing that everything was going to be okay. And down the road, surrounding myself with people that had the same belief and the power of community. So, and I'm grateful, so grateful now to be doing what I do, to be coaching, to be inspiring others. Like I get to use the knowledge, the school knowledge that I got throughout the years, but the life knowledge and the golden nuggets from living. And now I get to share with everybody else.
You covered everything that I wanted you to cover. So thank you for that, because
You're welcome.
I'm sure that as people are listening, they're like, holy crap, this woman has done so much. And you have, right? And it's because you're always open to saying yes. And so for everyone listening, I want you to take that away from this story. Like, I know we're not very far yet into this episode, but there's so much power in just following your passion, following what feels right. Like, flying to another country on a whim when you do not know the language is something most people will not do, right? Let alone travel to another state for us in the US on their own for a weekend, right? So if you, oh, actually, first, before I ask you this, I want you to tell them, because we talked about your transition to Canada. It's clear
Yes.
you're still in Vancouver, but tell them how long now you have been in Canada, because you never went back, right?
No, I went back to visit, but
Right, but you never moved back.
never moved back. So I came to Canada to stay for 6 months, 21 years ago.
Yeah.
That's how long it has been. And the fact that I said I love the challenge is because sometimes another thing that I want to bring to your audience attention. Sometimes life happens and we're really good at something that we do, and we have to start fresh someone else, or we have to start fresh a new job and a new skill or whatever. And it's hard to start fresh. So we see this so often when we're teaching people to create their online businesses. They're really, really good at what they do, but then they need to learn social media and go on camera. So is that start, right? That is really hard. And that is one of the things that when I came to Canada, it was hard. I had no English. Like the first thing I did the first week I was there, I went to the skydiving school because I wanted to jump. Like I missed that. And I'm like, I know what I'm doing. Let me do it. I had my own business, but I didn't have the proper communication to explain to them what I had at that time. I had my logbook and stuff, but they're like, no, you got to do this and you got to do that. And I remember being so frustrated at that time because I'm like, that was my business. I know exactly what I'm doing, but I just don't have that skill right now. And I took a deep breath, and I still, it's that moment when we get frustrated or upset that it's always about the power of choices. It's that moment when you like, instead of react, you act upon something.
Mhm.
So you get frustrated. Okay, how can I make a better decision? And that is something that throughout my life, like, and a lot of this I learned also from my dad. Like I have been studying self-development since I was 14, 15, reading Paulo Coelho and Bob Proctor because I love it. But my dad always had similar philosophy. So it comes from that also. Like he's a big example in my life. My mom is always happy. I mean, that's a lot of stuff that happened in our lives. Like the things that happen in my life that are bad and hard, I don't talk a lot about it because I like to bring the positive. And I talk about some of the bad stuff, but not a lot, right? That's a lot. I like to be happy and to smile, but there's a lot that happened. But I want to bring that, the aftermath of when something bad happens, there are good things that can come from it. That aftermath that you will survive. That aftermath of make a different choice. Again, don't react, act upon something, right? So there are many times in my life that I had to do that. Like, and one of the times was like the skydiving school. I'm like, I just want to go jump. So I'm like, oh, okay, take a deep breath. It's okay, it'll happen. And he did. A few months later, my English was a little better, but I had to start from zero. So going back to having to start from zero, that was like literally zero, because when you don't have the language from a new country, you have almost that at the very beginning, right? But one thing that my godfather always laughed, we landed in Vancouver, they picked me up, and that smell was different. It was a different smell, that fresh, that pine smell. And I loved it. And we got to their apartment, and they're like, "Oh, we're out of bread." The first thing I did is like, "Don't worry, I'll go buy bread. Where's the supermarket?" And they're like, "You just got here and you flew for 28 hours. You don't know English. We'll go with you." And I'm like, "Nope, I need this." And no GPS at that time, right? They're like, "Okay, 3 blocks down, 2 to the right, 2 to the left." And I went and I grabbed the bread, and money's different. Everything is different. So I showed the lady and I'm like, "So what do you do? Pennies and coins and whatever." And she picked up the money, and I went home with the bread, and my godparents is like, "That's awesome." And I'm like, "I'm coming back." Because I had a total nervous breakdown from that relationship. So I was rebuilding myself. But then I was rebuilding myself with eyes of curiosity, with eyes of, like, a couple of times in my life, I had to rebuild myself, and that's okay.
Yeah.
There are lessons. All the time you rebuild yourself, you're in a better stage, and you get to share that with others.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you added that, because that's so true. Like we talk about positive. There's so much negative that happens, right? And you can't have one without the other. You never
No.
appreciate the beauty and the positivity without the negativity. But I like what you highlighted about, you still get to see what you can make out of the situation, right? So even though in that moment when you're having this breakup, it was probably more like, I need to run away, right? Because I also feel that way sometimes. But
Yes.
in that, you also harnessed your own power, your own independence, and you just really embraced it, right? And went for it. And so even though the initial reaction was to kind of run away from the problem for a while and just escape, you made this whole incredible beautiful life for yourself, right? Like you have a beautiful family and a perfect little doggo and all of these things, right, that wouldn't have happened because of that. So my question is, when you're feeling like something needs to change in your life, even if you're not sure what it is, and you feel this pull in a direction, but you're scared and you don't want to move forward because we are sitting in the unknown in that moment.
Yes.
Can you share kind of what goes through your head in that moment for you personally, and how you sort out finding the power to move forward and step into that unknown?
Okay. Thank you for that question. I love that. And I am going to use the example for, like, from when I said yes to coach full time for mastermind, when I got the job opportunity. Because that stage in my life, the other point in here is that we are used to what we have. So it's the unknown and the let go of what you have, right? That sometimes is not the best, but is what you know. So a lot of times we get settled with that. And I believe, and sorry if I'm quoted wrong, so forgive me, but I believe also Buddha said that the reason of stress and anxiety and unhappiness is that you don't let go of things that need to be let go of to create that change. That life is a constant change. Life always happens, but we get so tied up to something that does have an expiry date, but we don't let go. And that's a lot of that creates a lot of stress, a lot of unhappiness. So I remember the first time I heard that, I'm like, oh yeah, that is so right. Oh, I'm guilty of that too. But what happened for me when I got the power? So the power for me to say yes. When I got invited to coach, I was looking for part-time because I was coaching and working by myself at that point for a very long time, right? Launching my clients and doing the leadership and trauma healing, but always by myself with my clients. I love it, but by myself. And I really miss working in a team because I'm a people person. So and I miss like bouncing ideas and work. So I realized that that's what I was missing in my life. So it comes with the realization, I think, step one for me. What am I missing in my life? This sucks, but instead of focusing in what I don't want to, let's focus on what I want to. And so that for me is number one. Okay, this really sucks. I'm not super happy with the way it is right now. My husband was up and down too. And I'm like, I need to make money. I need life needs to change. And he figured out, which is fine. But I needed to detach from whatever was happening there and take care of me. That's another thing to forget. We are so involved in other people's problems at times because they're our family and we love them and we care them that we forget about us. So I'm like, you're a big boy. I trust that everything's going to be okay. I need to take care of myself because I'm going down the hole together. And I don't want that. So I'm like, okay, this is what I want. I want to work part-time, have my coaching clients, but I want to work with a team. I want to help in marketing campaigns. I want to bounce ideas back and forth. I want to have meetings. I'm like, not just me. I want to be. That's what I was missing.
Yeah.
So not going back full time because I was still in mom mode. Even Lucas was then at that time starting high school. I had more time, but I was afraid to miss important times in his life because that was something really important to me. I never missed a game. I never missed a practice. So it's my core values. I didn't want to jeopardize those core values to work full time. So that was, for me, was my biggest struggle. But the answer was, it is full time or nothing. And I'm like, and you got to let go of your business. I'm like, which is okay. But I'm just saying, those are decisions that needed to be made and measured. But the positives that I had, and it was time for me to make that change in my life. So it was a combination of, okay, I want to go this. I want to work with a team. I know the way I am right now really sucks. I don't want it anymore. It needs to change. So it's like jump out of the plane and the parachute will open. I'm like, I'm jumping out of the plane. I said yes. And then I trust that everything was going to be okay. And I did my part to organize schedule, sports. So I didn't jeopardize my core values, but I added so much joy and in work and projects and things that I love in my life. Like the mom that was very happy, still having their business, the business women, like I was back. And that's how I felt. Like once I was able to organize and go through that first, holy crap, the first 2-3 months, I'm working full time and I see my son walking to school and I'm not walking him. So is that like, I'm here, but I want to be there. But when I'm there, I want to be here. It was still for a few months that process until I was able to calm down because it's a snap of finger. But to make a decision, you got to know where you want to go. So you get to the point where enough's enough, something has to change. And you don't need to know where you're going to go 10 years from now. That's something else that I always say. It's such a big pressure to, you got to know 10 years from now, you're going to know 5 years from now, you're going to know 2 years from now how your life is going to be. You got to have a compass. And there's truth to that. But a lot of people get frozen because they can't see. They're in the mess. And sometimes when you're in the mess, it's hard to put your eyes out and see. So when I'm coaching, I always say, okay, where do you want to be in 3 weeks from now? You know what's really not working. So what is one thing you can change for things to start working? Maybe you have that one piece of the domino that if you put it down, everything is going to go into place. So I look in my life for those pieces of the domino that I can control. There are things you can't control. But what is the piece of domino that I can control? That I know if I move here, the path opens a little bit. And then I walk, and then the path opens, and I walk. So a lot of times in my life, I don't know where I'm going to be in 5 years from now. But I know I know my core values. I know that I love people, and I love my family, and I love marketing and mindset. So they are pointers that I know. And from there, I play the game, life happens. I play the game, something else happens. So I keep on playing the game. I don't hide away from playing the game. I don't know if that fully answers your question, but it's part of it, right? Is
Yeah.
know that something's got to change, know a little bit where you want to go, and believe in yourself that you can make it work.
Yeah. And the piece about values, and knowing who you are in that way, right? Knowing what is most important to you. That's a really excellent frame for someone to look at as they're waiting for something to open and moving forward and waiting for it to open, right? Because as you're present, instead of worrying about what is the end destination, this is about where am I now, right? And in my coaching program, I actually teach them to identify their values. So I love that because without knowing that, those are kind of like your guideposts, or like when you're on a hike, like your markers, your hiking trail markers to let you know when you're on the right path. And I believe that you actually know that. You can feel it in your body
Oh,
if you're in alignment or if you're not in alignment. So my next question would be, for someone who hasn't been in touch with themselves for a long time and has been focused on other people and really hasn't considered much what they want, where they want to go, but they're feeling like, I need to make this change. How could they best start to get in alignment with their values from your perspective?
so that is an exercise that I love, and I did for myself. That is how I started the change when my husband went through depression. Then when I was going down the whole well, it's so simple, but it's to do more of what makes you happy. But you have to make the conscious decision to take some time for you. Like, it doesn't need to be a super grand thing. Take a book you love that makes sense to you, that you love it, and go sit down and read it for 10 minutes. Cup of tea. Make a cup of tea and go enjoy it. That is an example that I love to give, is that buy the more expensive soap. So if you can, it's
Yeah.
$3 more. Buy the expensive soap, because you're gonna smell good all month, and you're gonna feel luxurious, and you're gonna visualize yourself what is the woman you want to be. That I'll touch on that too. But those small incremental conscious decisions to do more of what makes you happy, it makes such a profound impact. At least it made for me, because you start thinking about you a bit more. Okay, this is my time for a bit, and it's not selfish. If I'm happy, people around me will be happy. If I'm happy and I'm joyful, my family is going to be happier. I'm going to be happier for them. So that is such a huge piece, but it's so small. If we think, like, you like to go for a hike, go twice a week. What can you do to make you feel better, to do things you like? Comes with practice. At the beginning, it will feel super weird and you feel like, oh my God, I should be with my son and I should be with my husband. But you start to make those decisions and you start to take care of you. So you take care of them. Jim Rohn, he has a saying that says, I'll take care of me for you and you take care of you for me.
Mm. So good.
Because we help each other. Right? If I'm not in a good space, I'm not going to be good for others. So once you really let that sink in, and you're like, ooh, that's a good one to live by. Another important part that it worked for me, and that came when I did my first training in leadership and trauma healing. Like I said, they're traits, personal traits that I have that I love, but there is a lot of learning and self-development and investment in myself, in a sense of how can I grow as a human being, as a professional. The investment we do in ourselves is the biggest investment and the best investment we can ever make. So another super fun exercise that I would love to invite your audience to do, and I think I remember you do something very similar to for your clients, is for them to imagine them in a, let's say in a 6 months from now, if it's your best day ever, how are you gonna dress? How are you gonna walk? How are you gonna smell? Who is gonna be around you? Really think of this in smell, in color, in emotions. How is the next version of you, the next level you are gonna be, walk, talk, smell, laugh in 3, 6 months, 1 year from now? But the twist is that what would it take for you to start act like her now?
Mm-hmm.
So you bring the future to now and you start acting that, because that is another saying that says the universe doesn't give you what you want. The universe gives you who you are. As you're changing yourself, as you're evolving, as you're becoming, other doors of energy and manifestation. And if you're not familiar, there are different names, different faith, different religion, but it's all that feeling that you bring your future to now and you start acting like it and you see the magic happens.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to explain, but I just know that to me it's possible. I have seen in my life and anyone can do it. The belief, one last thing I'm going to share is that be open to possibilities also. It ties up to what we're saying, but be open to what if. A month or so ago, like we needed to change our car. It was older, it was time. And so we started looking for a new car. And I had that one car in mind that I wanted, that I had it before I got married and stuff. I'm like, oh my God, I had that car. It's a family car, but I'm like, I want a fun family car because I like to go 4x4. I like to go up in the mountain when it snows and I don't want to worry about it. I want big tires. I can just change the dial and go into snow and mud mode and I can just go and have fun, right? But I had that belief at that time that, okay, I'm looking for those models here because it makes sense and this might be a better one. And we went for test drive, but deep inside, I'm like, when you said you can feel it in your body.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and I looked for, I told my husband, he said, man, let's go to that dealership and let's just test drive that car because that's what I want. I don't think it's in my price range, but I was open to the possibility. Long story short, I went there and I sat in the car and I'm like, oh God, I feel like I'm at home.
Love it.
I'm like, this is so nice. You step on the gas and it really goes. It's all like, I'm like, it was so good. But the car was dirty, wasn't the right dealership. So my husband went home look online. And the next day, someone noticed, like the sales guy from this other dealership noticed that someone was online. They grabbed the names and they called Martin and they said, well, do you want to come for a test drive? I'm like, that's a sign. Yes, let's go. We went for a test drive. We came out of there with the car. But it's not about the car. And it's like $100 more than what I was paying for the other car. But this one is fully insured and don't need to worry about it. So it's not, it just made sense. But just to finish it up is to believe in yourself. In 20 years, I've been through, since I got married, we all been through a lot, and I made a decision to stay home, and not a lot of money, but a lot of love and a lot of joy, right? Having this car now, when I went there at the dealership, is mine. Is in my name, my finance, and I'm paying for it. So it took me a year and a half to start working back full time, like to know what I want, and back full time, to be back at the businesswoman that I was before I became a mom. So I just want to show your audience that if you truly believe in yourself and you go for it, that's going to be hard. Days are going to be tough. You're going to cry. But you get up and you keep on moving forward, because you know you're serving others, you know you're helping your family, and you know where you want to go, even if it is one step at a time. But it took me a year and a half. And now I'm driving a fun car that I like it for my family, that is in my name. And when the finance lady came back and she said, you got approved. And I'm like, I did what? She's like, you got approved. And I'm like, is that in my name? No, go sign it. I can, yeah, you got approved. I was crying in the leadership, and I hugged her and I hugged the sales guy. So I'm going to stop right here. And this is what I wanted to say, that keep on believing in yourself. Life is going to happen. How fast we shift and how fast we reframe, that's where's the magic. How fast to get back up on track and keep on moving forward. So thank you for having me here.
Yes, thank you for being here, for sharing all of that so beautifully. I know that people who listen to this are going to be just so excited about it, and I'm excited to hear what their feedback is and hope that they go out and apply it. And if they want to get in contact with you, they want to come and follow your page and hear more from you, how would they best contact you?
So you're more than welcome to follow me on my social media. So it's Ludmila Rogoski. So the same as my name, I made it easy. Ludmila Rogoski for my Instagram, and the same for my Facebook page. And you feel free to send me a DM and say hello. If you have any other questions, I will be more than happy to share other parts of my story and empower you also. It's the power of helping and supporting each other. And this is why I love what you do and your branding and all the work you're putting into it. Like, seriously, from the bottom of my heart, you're helping a lot of women.
Thank you.
To bring their life back, to remember who they are. Right? I think I love it because it's a collective of women helping women and not women tearing women down. And the more you are around people and women that are supporting each other, that's when the magic really starts to help and happen. So I'm very grateful for everything you put into together. You are a phenomenal leader, and I'm happy to call you a friend.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, I'm grateful to you as well. And thank you so much for being on today and sharing your heart with us.
My pleasure. Anytime. Sharing my heart, inspire people with amazing women with me. That's the best. Couldn't ask for more.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Rebel Rise podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and invite your friends to join us next week. This is your time. Now get out there and rise.